Hello and welcome back to Anna Rose Reads the podcast. I am your host, Anna. Once again, I am returning to you sooner than normal, and I am thrilled to be doing so. Today, I am sharing my conversation with somebody that I've had on the podcast for the second time this year. I think that's a new record. Chris Panatier joins me today to talk about his novel that is on shelves today from indie publisher Soblello Books. It is called Shitshow, but do not make the mistake that I did and think this would be a pun-tastic read about porta potties and poop and everything else. No. We talk about real things. We talk about the emotions, about how Chris made me cry, about everything else that's really, really heartfelt with this story. It's a fantastic book, and I implore each and every one of you to order yourself a copy. Yeah, but if you want to hear what me and Chris have to say about the book first, here you have it. Here's our conversation. I hope that you all enjoy. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Hi, Anna. Thanks for having me back. I'm good.
I'm really any excuse I get to chat with you is like I'm taking it. And so absolutely whenever I read your upcoming release, Shitshow, we had to have a conversation. We simply had to. There was no way around this. It was inevitable.
I'm so glad. I'm really so glad. Thanks for reading it.
Oh, well, thank you for giving me a copy too. You gave me a copy way back during Stoker, and
Yeah.
it's just like the TBR has been crazy, so I'm a little frustrated that it took me this long to get to
Oh,
it. But
man.
it is so freaking good, Chris.
Thank you.
I feel like a lot of people will look at the cover and see it, and if they haven't already seen it, they're gonna say, "Hey, that's a porta potty on the cover," and the title of it is Shit Show.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna let you introduce the book from there because I think people are in for quite the surprise with this novel, and I just want you to lay out the
Sure.
premise for everybody who may not be familiar with it.
Sure. Well, our elevator pitch for it is latrine technician versus dark carnival. So hopefully that hooks some people who just go, well, you know, that little battle there, that versus there, that sounds good. Like I'm here for that. Latrine technician, great. And everyone loves a dark carnival, right? But the sort of back cover copy of it is that our main character, Sunday McCorder, has recently taken a job as a latrine technician because he needs a job with flexible hours and the use of a company vehicle. So he can take care of his mother who lives with him in his mobile home, who is suffering from dementia. So he needs that flexibility. And between himself and their I don't know what you'd say, their unique neighbor, Miss Poppy, they are able to sort of keep tabs on Regina, Sunday's mother. But once county fair season starts in Glen Rose, Texas, where they live, and the fall sets in, um, body parts start being found in the porta potties that Sunday is charged with maintaining, and people start going missing. And is it a is it a human trafficking ring? Is it a serial killer? What is it? Could it be a dark carnival? I don't know. You'll have to read to find out. But that's basically the back cover.
Well, there you have it. I just I have to ask, like, how the hell did you come up with it? Because, like you said, your elevator pitch, I think the appeal of it is like, no, I don't think anybody's quite gonna have read anything like this
Mhm.
before. And that's certainly like what stuck me in is like, oh, I don't think I've ever read anything from that perspective, quite honestly, no matter Dark Carnival or not. So
Yeah.
how did this begin for you?
It literally began when I was riding my bike around this tiny little lake we have here, and I saw a porta potty, and I'm always trolling for trolling like fishing trolling. I'm always trolling for ideas, and I was like, portal potty? Literally, that was my first thought, and I was like, that's a good idea. It's funny. Instantly, I was like, this is a novella. Um, but but what do you do? How do you? Okay, you've got the idea. You've got a title, which for the longest time it was going to be Portal Potty, but the colloquialism shit show is just too good to pass up on. Like someone is gonna title their book that, and I need it to be me. And so um, I was like, okay, how do I center a story around portal potties and actually have it make sense and work and not just be like, oh, this guy had a funny thing. He's going to just tape it onto a story, right? So I actually wanted to come up with a way to really make this idea of portal potties make sense to the logic of the story and have a whole reason for existing. So I spent some time brainstorming what would this story be? Who would our main character be? Obviously, it's got to be a latrine technician. And then why are these porta potties portals to another realm, a world, dimension, whatever. And I just felt like I wanted it to be my sort of small town Texas story, but
Hmm.
set in modern times. So you've got a guy who is sort of, he's getting along in life, but he's in his early 50s. He's not real savvy in a lot of stuff, but he dearly loves his mother. And so I was like, okay, that feels good going in. And I didn't typically, when I come up with a story for a book or an idea for a book, I don't start writing until my brain is like, you must sit down and start typing, like right now. And I still remember, I didn't know exactly how I was going to start it. And I still remember sitting down on the couch, and I usually can't type like while the TV's on, but like I
Yeah.
think we were watching like Escape to the Country or something on BBC, which I highly recommend to anyone who like needs to just chill out. Um, and I sat down and I typed this prologue about these two teenagers hooking up in a porta potty, and it just took off from there. It was so much fun.
It's a hell of an opener. Like it
Thank
really
you.
does set the tone. I think there's a certain familiarity with that opener. You know, the guy's trying to win a prize for this girl because he knows he's gonna get lucky if he does. And there's the expectation, and then just like everything literally goes to shit. There's gonna be so many puns in this. I can already tell.
It's real conducive to puns. It's okay. This is a safe space for shit-based puns.
Perfect. Um, yeah, and the other thing too, whenever I think of porta potties, I think it's really kind of funny to think of like, oh, porta potties are touchstones for people. But for me, when I think of porta potties, I think of Mardi Gras because that's typically where we run into those. And so we don't have
Yeah.
fairs. I mean, we do, but we don't have fairs the way that Texas does. We have Mardi Gras. And all I could think was like, oh my God, this plot set in New Orleans. Like if this had happened, this would be even more of a shit show.
Oh
But
yeah.
I think it's really interesting that you set it in Texas, small town Texas, and in a way you write kind of endearingly about it. Like there's a
Mhm.
weird kind of I don't want to say it's quite romanticism, but I wanted to see your thoughts on writing about small town Texas. I think in particular with the neighbor situation
Mhm.
with Miss Poppy, that's where it really came through for me. So I just want to open the floor for you to talk about small town
Yeah.
Texas fairs and all that good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I I wanted to tell sort of an intimate story about just part of this enclave of this mobile home park where you have this image of a couple of neighbors who really rely on each other. And that's not unique to Texas. That's everywhere. You find that everywhere. Um, but I wanted, because I knew it was going to be an intimate story and because I know this area of Texas, I was like, I shouldn't set it anywhere else. I can paint this picture really well, I think. And there's some fun local history, especially about Dublin, Texas, that I was able to use to really ground the story as I then spun it into the stratosphere. So I wanted it to be grounded, and I know these people. Like, I really feel like I know these people, and I just sort of turned a few of them up to 11. And the other thing too and these aren't tiny, tiny hamlet towns. These would be called, I guess they would be towns, a couple thousand people to maybe even 10 or 20,000 people. They're by no means huge, but they're not like three houses you pass on the highway, right?
Yeah.
And so they are encroached upon by modern life at the same time. And there's this chapter where Sunday is he goes to the local Walmart, which he hates because it ruined, what was there before, which was probably just a field. And he hates the Walmart and he goes in and he asks the salesperson for tracers. He wants tracers to like be able to trace people. And she's like, "You mean like air tags?" He doesn't know what those are, right? But he's sort of stumbling through like the technology that is commonplace for a lot of us today, but he's never needed it.
Yeah.
And that is something that I think is common to a lot of people. And even nowadays, even younger people, so I'm 49, but people who are far younger than me are going, there's new technology coming out, and they're going, no, screw that. I'm not learning a new thing. And so this guy's in his 50s, and so he's like, he's got his, you could just see his phone. He's got like the big phone in the holder on his belt, right? Like we've seen that guy a million times. That's Sunday, right? And he's just trying to get by, right? And so I just like this kind of collision of small, simple life with something that is just, and this is an allegory for the shit show itself, for what happens with him. Just he's being confronted with something he doesn't understand, and he's just got to stumble through it, and he can't not. So I hope that kind of answers your
Oh,
question.
absolutely. Yeah. And I'm laughing so hard when you're describing the guy with the big old belt, holders. I mean, you know how many men like that down the bayou still live that
Oh
way? I mean,
yeah, oh yeah,
we're chock full of them down here. So I
yeah,
guess that's probably why I felt so at home in this story as well. It's because I
yes,
know these people.
yeah.
But I think what you said, you really, summed it up quite eloquently about how it's very much representative of stumbling through this thing that he doesn't quite understand or he can't fathom, and it's all very overwhelming and a lot as it relates to his mom's dementia. And I'm
Hmm.
kind of curious how you landed on the decision for her to have dementia as like opposed to like a terminal illness. Like, because I feel like cancer is the one that a lot of people go to, but dementia feels especially like a cruel illness because you see it happen before your eyes, the people that you love disappearing.
That's a great question. The short answer is dementia scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And I have dabbled in stories where people can't trust their own minds. I haven't done it directly with dementia, but it scares the hell out of me. But it also worked for this story.
Hmm.
It was, basically his mother, without spoiling, his mother um, sees a way out of dementia, and the way out is not necessarily good for her or anybody. Um, but I wanted to, it's the whole thing, but for one chapter is really, or one or two chapters is really told through Sunday's POV, but there are two with his mother. And you just get a glimpse into like, if you know your mind is slowly going away, you'd probably do almost anything to stop it. And she does. And when she gets the relief of that process stopping, she is addicted to it, and that's one of the things where we can put characters into all sorts of conflict and we can give characters all sorts of different motives. But usually with most motives, you say, well, there is a stopping point where you'd say, I want this, but I'm not going to take this course of action because what I want doesn't justify this course of action. But you put somebody up against losing their actual mind, not going crazy, not mental illness, but literally the spool of their thread of identity leaving and never coming back. I think people will go a hell of a lot farther if they see a way to stave it off. So that to me was um, a really good sort of uh, motive and consequence to examine in this story.
Yeah, and I don't think this is much of a spoiler, but I don't like a lot of times I've read horror that has to do with like, not being able to trust your mind, not being able to trust your own perception or the perception of those around you. And those are kind of like thematically on par with dementia, right? But what you do with this novel is you do allow for the reprieve. And I don't know that I've read a whole lot of that lucidity or that clarity and like having the actual wherewithal for the decision making about what you're going to do with it at this point. And I think it
Hmm.
was a really interesting story that you told with that in particular. And again, I don't think this is a spoiler, but the idea of being remembered and recording your own history is really, really important to multiple characters
Hmm.
for different reasons, some
Yeah.
better than others. And so I wanted to talk about the emphasis of like why that's so important because like I know to me it's like I don't ever, nobody really wants to be forgotten. Like you want to be remembered. But I feel like there's something even deeper than that that's going on with this moment of clarity and this need to recall, be remembered, and to record.
Yeah, well, so there definitely is a point where she gets Sunday's mother does get some reprieves, as you say, based on what is going on, where she feels the slow sifting away of her memories and her identity sort of come to a halt. And when that happens, she takes the opportunity to very literally write down everything she can remember about her whole life. And it becomes twisted in a very like heartbreaking way because she's not sure that reprieve is going to last. So she wants the story. And of course, Sunday walks in on this happening and he sort of discovers what she's recording and maybe what she's recording isn't all quite what is true for her, but he also he learns about her perspective of him as she has suffered from this disease. And that again, that moment is a big like choke up moment for me. Because of course I think I still have my parents, but I think about, my parents and what they will inevitably and what we will all inevitably face, which is the loss of something of ourselves before we
Yeah.
lose it all, right? So yeah, so I think that if you had a brief reprieve from something like dementia or Alzheimer's, I think that you would probably, and if you knew the clock was ticking,
Hmm.
you might try to record as much as possible, so you can at least get back to it and
Yeah.
feel like you had control over something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like the most sensical answer to what you would do in that predicament should it happen. But again, I just don't know that I've ever read or like really thought about what would that look like, and you
Yeah.
you gave it the room to breathe with those scenes, and it is particularly heartbreaking. But I would kind of want to pivot a little bit more back to
Hmm.
Sunday's character because there's so much heavy lifting that the story is doing while kind of talking about a somewhat absurd topic of shit.
Yeah.
But like when you step back and you look at it, there's nothing that he wouldn't do for his mom. He would literally wade through shit for her. Like
Hmm.
that's not just a saying for him.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk a little bit about, those deeper functionings on something that, seems a little fun on the surface. Like how does that feel for you as a writer writing that? Because it's a heavy story.
Yeah, right. Thank you. And it's one of the things that I have tried to emphasize. Having made mistakes in the past about how I talked about my books, where I've emphasized something that I just thought was fun and funny, and then undersold what was really there. And
Yeah.
so here, like, yeah, people might see shit show and be like, okay, that's just not for me. And so when I've had the opportunity to discuss this, I do because I this is actually a weighty story, even with all the sort of shenanigans and the puns and all of that, right?
You do have good humor in there. You do.
Thank you, thank you. But as I was writing it, I that's a delicate balance to try to try, but I think humor and horror, I'm not the first person to say this. In fact, I
Hmm.
heard it a few weeks ago. I think humor and horror are just different sides of the same coin. I
Yeah.
really do. I mean, you probably, I think if most people think about, the last 10 horror movies they went to see, you probably a couple of those, like if you're me, you're a bleak hunter. Like I,
Yeah.
I, I am looking for the bleakest shit to watch. But even in those, sometimes there's absolute hilarity, and I don't yet understand the psychology of it, as to why that works. Maybe it's a our natural way of relieving stress, um, and laughing in the face of, utter doom. What else can you do? And it's also a coping mechanism, I think. So it it felt natural, as crazy as that is to say, to put, to wrap, uh, you know, of a mother-son dementia story inside a portable shitter. uh, and it just, but I knew as I was writing it that I had to ground the whole portal potty of it all
Yeah.
in a real situation. So I had to find a reason why there are these portal potties. Why is this guy the guy that's doing this? And really ground that and lay that out. And, I did research on porta potty maintenance vehicles.
I
Okay.
swear to God, this was like one of my exact questions was how much research on shit did you have to do essentially?
Well, a whole lot more on like biocide
Yeah.
and the suction power of a honey wagon, than actual poo poo. So while it is called shit show, while these are porta potties, I tried not to over shit it. It's mostly the mechanics of porta potty maintenance that, Sunday sort of, you get the idea that he sort of takes pride in what he does no matter what it is. And so he's kind of pumped up about Honey, which is the name of his honey wagon, the shit sucker. It's got dual pumps, a pretty high PSI, it
No,
can carry.
you write about it very romantically. You do. I didn't think it could be done, but you
Yeah,
did it.
thank you so much. Is this my first romance novel?
Yeah.
um, yeah, so but by doing that, I was able to really ground it, and it's
Yeah.
not just some window dressing to be funny.
Yeah. No, and what I really appreciated about the story too was, I guess, I'm not somebody who always really gels with cosmic horror. And
Hmm.
so whenever, you hear like the portal potty pitch, say that three
Hmm.
times fast.
Yeah.
I was a little like, oh man, I don't know how that'll land for me, but it is a very, very grounded story in the reality that we know and the problems that we face. And you mentioned that you did do research into small town Texas and things
Hmm.
like that. Like what was that like and how did that come to be?
It was a lot of fun. So I know all these towns that I talked about, and I've been through most of them. Some of the ones I haven't been through were because there is a point in the story where Sunday is trying to triangulate where the central evil is coming from, or where his mom might have gone, and he's he's drawing lines from city to city based on newspaper reports to find the epicenter of this, right? And so some of those cities, I just drew the line myself, and I was like, okay, it's going to be Anson. Now, I've never been to Anson, Texas, but
Yeah.
most of these places I've been to. And but the one I did the most research on was Dublin.
Yeah.
I know Glen Rose. I've been to Glen Rose a bunch of times, but Dublin, I did a lot of research on, for the city history, which is entirely true, but for the 1936 Kearney Uprising, that I made up. And and by the way, they're not called carnies. You can't call them carnies. It's troopers.
Troopers.
Okay. Which is a point that Sunday is caught on several times because he's a little old fashioned. And Dublin is just a crazy has a crazy history. Like the name of the town, Dublin, it's spelled like Irish Dublin, but the name of the town comes from the call that people would yell when the Comanches would attack, and it was double in, and they just shortened it to Dublin. Um, and then of course the great corporate fight between Dublin Bottling Company and Dr. Pepper.
Pepper. I love that tidbit. I do love that tidbit very, very much. It just adds so much character to that pit stop
Oh yeah.
for
Oh
Sunday.
yeah. And I got on Google Maps. I drove through Dublin on Google Maps so I could like as he's getting to the little museum where he meets Gabby, I'm describing the actual street as you're going through it. I think the metal chicken might even be real. I'm not sure. I think it might be.
Incredible. And I have to give a shout out to Gabby too. I really liked her as a character.
Oh, good,
She doesn't
good.
come in until a little bit later in the game, but she was a very cool addition to the story. But I want to pivot to I think probably my favorite character of all is Miss Poppy next
Yeah,
door with
yeah,
her and her fireball. I just want you to talk about her, man. Like I just want to
yeah.
hear about her and like where she came from for you and all this good
hmm
stuff, you know?
There's a type of person I've met many, many times, mainly in my earlier career as an attorney, where I was representing a lot of people in Louisiana, actually, Texas and Louisiana, who worked their whole lives, saved whatever little they could save. They're on retirement from the plant where they worked. They live, I mean, modest is an exaggeration a lot of times for these people. And maybe they live in a trailer, maybe they live in a tiny little, sheet metal home. I have been there. I've sat in their living rooms, and you won't find more humble, sweet people who see themselves as blessed than those people.
Hmm.
And I have my little problems that Chris thinks he has on a daily basis. And getting to know those people hundreds of times over and over again. Talk about perspective.
Hmm.
And that's who I was kind of trying to capture with Miss Poppy. Like Miss Poppy, you get some windows into her life throughout the story about her and her children and things and mistakes she's made and the peace that she's made with who she is and how her life has unfolded and sort of she has let go of cynicism and maybe she never had it. And Miss Poppy for me was a personal cleansing device because I do sometimes lean into cynicism.
Oh yeah.
And it's tough not to nowadays, right? But I look at people who have so much less than I had in my life and wouldn't ever complain about it. And that's Miss Poppy. She's an amalgamation of all these people that I have met through my life who would never complain to you and would only be hospitable to you and helpful to you.
Yeah.
And so that's her. And I gave her a little dose of doesn't give a fuck, right? She loves to talk shit at cops. That's like
That was
that's
probably one
like
of my
my
favorite exchanges in the whole book.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah. So I gave her a little bit of fire to go with that fireball, right?
Yeah.
But that's where she comes from. I just wanted to have this character that I just wanted to love on through the whole book. And I think a lot of people have met people like that. But if you give people a little bit of your attention and your time, even if they're not in your circle, even if they don't live where you live, or they're not anywhere close to where you are, like socioeconomically, that's a hell of a perspective. And I'm so glad I had that throughout my working career to see how people really live where I've had a pretty privileged life. So that's Miss Poppy.
Yeah. I think the thing about both Sunday and Miss Poppy that I just found the most endearing and I think the most touching and why I think the ending that you wrote worked so well is they show up every single time.
Yeah.
Every day. every circumstance, even the most out there, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, they don't really dilly-dally on on believability, which is a really nice thing that I think we're, kind of
Yeah.
experiencing in horror. They just show up. They just do.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really, I don't know about unique, but it's just something that I really enjoy reading in a character, and they're just there front and center participating 110% the length of the
Yes.
novel.
Yes. Yes. I didn't want some of the, there are people who exist who do not equivocate about should I do this? They just do it.
Hmm.
And you're exactly right. They're just there. You got a problem, it doesn't matter. They will lay down in traffic for you, and that's who Miss Poppy is. She might ram you with her rascal scooter, or shoot you with a BB gun if you're a Doucette. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
I can believe that. But no, there's something very endearing and very touching, and I think inspirational about people like that who just show up, that consistently.
Yep.
But to pull away a little bit from the emotional stuff, I want to talk about a little bit about the Dark Carnival side of this because as probably as fucked up as it is to say, it was really fun to
Good,
read all
good.
of the horrendous fucking contraptions that you come up with for this Dark Carnival. And I don't want to name them. I don't want to get into too much specifics because that would be a spoiler. But like, I just have to ask, were there any points of inspiration that you did have that you're like, yes, I saw this. I'm thinking of this. This is how this is gonna go for this thing on this other side. I mean, because you have quite a few of them. It reminds me of creative slasher kills, honestly, is what came to
Oh,
mind.
thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just kind of doing it through amusement park rides,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Well, I've always had a kind of a interesting relationship with, especially like seedy carnival rides, And I think anybody who's gone to a carnival, like one of those traveling carnivals on the roadside or whatever, you enter at your own risk, man. And I was just, I think, turning that sort of idea up to 11 in the Dark Carnival because it's something that I think, man, most people can relate to that. We've all been to a carnival at some point or a county fair or a seedy amusement park. And that fear that you have of, is this the time the Himalaya shoots off the tracks, right? Because the Himalaya is going to shoot off the tracks. That's what it does. That's what you're paying for is I survived it this time, right?
Yeah.
And it's taking that fear we already have of those rides, that kind of fun, exhilarating fear we have, and turning it into actual torture. So it's not that far of a leap, right? And I think what I did is I would just think of a ride and go, okay, how would this ride actually still work and be a torture device? We've all looked at those tiny metal capsules on the zipper or, one of those like just twirling around up and down rides. And I just said, what if one of those rides, instead of just being made out of, diamond plate, what if it was a cheese grater?
You
Right.
say that like everybody has had that thought, but sure,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so that one was easy. And and I don't think I'm giving away too much, but like, okay, there's always a shooting game, with little ducks on a conveyor belt. What if those were carnival goers, And what I usually do, and I think I don't know who said this, but there was a writer who once said, generally speaking, with regard to like your conceit for your story, is that it's not the first idea that's going to work. It's going to be like the second or third or fourth idea. And I kind of carry that through everything I do.
Hmm.
So when I would come up with an idea for one of those rides, I would kind of go, okay, that's the first idea. I'll let it stew and it will morph into the second idea. And maybe the second idea will be the more engaging, creative, strange thing to do. And that was easy because I think I wrote the whole story before I'd even named all the rides. I just had
Yeah.
blanks. And then I got to really think about that and then come back and name the rides, which were a ton of fun. There's a lot of cruel, funny puns, with
Yeah.
those rides. So yeah.
I don't know if it's if irony is the right word, but as somebody like I'm not a roller coaster person. You cannot
Hmm.
like I will go, but I'm one of those people who passes out on them. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
like just fall out. So it's very ironic that you create this dark carnival that you're like wishing the ride would just fucking break so you can get off. And this
Yeah.
is the one carnival like nope, it's gonna work just fine. Don't you worry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um,
It's going to work just
yeah.
as designed. And of course, there is a background on these rides. They don't just exist. There's a reason for it. And I think I think the reason I write that way is because one of my great pet peeves is when writers throw something in that is a cool concept and they don't make an effort to ground it in some way that makes it make sense for the story. So you go, that's really cool, but why does that exist?
Hmm.
Right? And so I always try to tie it to something. And in this case, all those rides exist because of the old carnival boss, that we're dealing with, the big bad.
Yeah. But I think though, again, it's operating on a bigger level, much like dealing with a sick loved one or dealing with the things that, we would rather not deal with, whether it's porta potties or dementia.
Right.
It's a ride that we're forced to endure, much like
Yes.
once you're on the coaster, you ain't getting off
Yeah.
until it's done. It's just, the only way out is through. And I feel like that is very much the tone of the book for Sunday
Yes.
anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, this is when you it's and most of us have had sick loved ones, something happens, and even if like I would say that I have taught myself to not let my own selfishness control my life. It's something
Hmm.
I have worked on for a long time to before I equivocate, just say yes. And then I find out that that was the right choice. And I actually feel like a good person for doing that. And when someone in your life is sick or hurting, um, you really don't have a choice. If you have any good fiber within you, you just got to do it. You just have to plow through. And poor Sunday really he's in this shit like,
Oh yeah.
but he's got no choice. He's got to do it.
No, but I really enjoy the way that you wrote him. I feel like it's very easy to fall into in today's world with our incel culture. It's very
Hmm.
easy to fall into the guy who still lives with his mom and takes care of his mom and is like really actually disturbed or really actually, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's not Sunday at all. He's actually quite golden retriever and wholesome.
He is. Yeah, yeah.
Um, even though he doesn't know about his poor tracers, poor baby.
I know. Once
Yeah.
tracers, it's a big magnet you put on the bottom of a car, right?
Yes, absolutely. Well, okay. I'm gonna pivot now to the ending that you wrote for this, and obviously
Hmm.
we're not gonna say what happens. But I don't know how we have a conversation about this book without talking about it because it is stunning. It's probably one of my favorite endings that I've read in a really long time. How did you, was it a process to get there? And I know we've talked about it briefly before, but like, just how did you land there and how did it come to be?
Thank you. I generally I'm generally happy with my endings, but this one clicked. I
Hmm.
mean, and when you read an ending that really clicked, like it. And I knew that based on what happens with Sunday's mother near the end, I knew that I didn't want I, I wanted to be able to tell a little bit more of her story. Um, because even though Sunday's the main character, she's she is the fulcrum for the whole thing. She's the catalyst for the whole thing, really. Because had it just been a pair of teens that got lost down that shitter, he wouldn't be going down after him. Okay. um, but she's the fulcrum, and so I really thought it was super important to end on her.
Hmm.
And then I had a choice. I could just have her doing what she's doing, which would have been like fine. But the idea of her interacting with someone else suffering from the same thing that we have never met and seeing them at their lowest uh, dealing with the same disease that Regina has. Um, it was almost a short story. It's like two
Mm-hmm.
pages.
Yeah,
And
no,
it's,
it felt that way.
you know, it just felt like it worked, even though it's completely out of the blue, but it all makes sense into what you've seen coming, and the the groundwork is there for what Regina is doing and how her world looks and how it feels. So I just knew that when I ended it before that very last bit, sort of an epilogue, I guess, I was fine, but it felt a little quick and it felt a little bit untied.
Mm-hmm.
And so I enjoy writing short stories, especially Flash, less than 1,000 words. And I thought I just got this idea for a very short, almost short vignette at the
Yeah.
end to do. So that's what happened.
Yeah. It I think the note that it left me thinking of is normally like choices sometimes feel very binary. They feel
Hmm.
very like we're going to do this or we're going to do this. It's either we take road A or road B and there's no C. And I felt like you created a C whenever not a lot of people would have thought to create a C, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And I know this is
yeah,
very vague for people who are listening, but I promise the surprise of what it is, I think it's worth it. But yeah, it just feels like one of those things that you find a way. Like you can find a way. That's an option for you too.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. I don't like binary endings. In some cases, they have to be just that's how it's set up. Um, but life is can I say life is non-binary? Life really is pretty non-binary in a lot of
Yeah.
ways as far as, you know, the right choices we've made. What right choice have you made that didn't have a negative consequence at some point, right? So, in this story, I'm not going to rescue someone. I'm not going to have a fully happy ending. There are, there is a satisfaction to this ending. There's some things that are joyous about it,
There's still
but
concessions though.
yeah, but it's still fucking sad. Like there's
Yeah.
a huge component to this that is very sad, but it is by no means bleak.
Yeah, no. And I think and it's really funny that a story about portal potties would be so grounded that you feel like, oh, it's gonna be A or B, right? But then
Hmm.
again, upon reading it, I was like, oh, I was thinking this could have only gone one of two ways, and I didn't see this being the case. So I think it's really funny that horror has the ability to do that whenever it's really grounded in reality,
Hmm.
whenever you know that like you always say like whenever you're in a fight with somebody, it's like, well, you're not really fighting about the thermostat being turned up at night. You're fighting about, like whatever.
Yes,
It's
yes.
very much like that with horror. You're not really talking about, you're talking about the bigger thing. And no matter how fantastical or out there it is, it still feels very realistic. And sometimes it feels like there is only you go right or you go left. But I do
Yeah.
love the idea that we can just find a way. Like if you think about it long enough and hard enough, I think that you can. And I think that that's something to be celebrated, especially with this book, because you walk in with one notion of what you're gonna read, and you read something entirely different, and that's so freaking cool. That was like the best reading experience,
Oh man, man, thank you so much. Well, I think that that choice C for the ending is very emblematic of Sunday's journey through the whole thing is there's a realism to what happens at the end. And and I think you know the trick I've sort of found is not deciding as a writer what I want to happen,
hmm
but what would happen. So yeah, this is a fantastical scenario. science fiction is science fiction, fantasy is fantasy. But once you set up the world, you you can ask as a writer, what do I want to happen? But what would happen? And often I think we see what the writer wanted to happen,
Yeah.
and not necessarily what would happen. And I think I'm trying to deliver here what would happen, not necessarily my preference of what would happen. But then it becomes my preference because I think it's the correct ending.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I get what you mean. It's the idea of like, oh, you're not punk anymore because you sold out because you got popular. Well, no, I've been punk all along. Yeah. No,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, no, I get it. I think, yeah. I really like the idea that, and like even there's such a small scene that I thought was really, really important, and you're gonna laugh at it when I probably bring it up, but Sunday decides to embark on whatever he's gonna do to, try and solve this problem, and he has to find a scuba suit, and he doesn't have a scuba suit, and then he like gets his hands on one, but it's too small, and like the normal person would be like, well, either I go and I try and find another scuba suit or I'm not doing this. And he's like, nope, option C. We're going to make it work as it is. And it's ridiculous. And it's, whatever, it's uncomfortable, but he does it because the end
Yeah.
justified the means for him at that point.
Yeah.
And
When you got no choice, man, he's not a guy who can go buy a scuba suit,
no, no.
right? And he's not a guy who has gone super easy on Shiner Bach in the last few years. And so, this has caused a problem when it comes to getting into a scuba suit. So he's willing to accept his plight.
Yeah, the hand that he's been dealt. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it. But no, I think that this is a book of option C's, and that makes me really happy because
Oh,
I
that's
think
so cool. That's such a cool way to put it. I love that.
yeah. But no, I really love the book. I love everything that you're able to accomplish with it. And I know it's very fun and easy to make the jokes about the portal potty and everything else, but
Mhm.
God, this is a heavy hitter. Um, so this comes out on September 2nd. We're speaking right now, it's the end of August. I
Mhm.
want to talk a little bit about what you've got going on for the rest of the year. I know literally today you shared a cover that you just did for a Taylor Swift anthology. Would love to hear a little bit about that if you're allowed to say.
Yeah, sure. Sobolo Books, who is also putting out Shitshow, had asked me back in March if I would want to do the cover for this Taylor Swift anthology, and also asked me to write a story for it. And of course, there's one Taylor Swift song on my phone. And as I was writing this, I was listening to more Taylor Swift because I wanted to weave in some song titles, right? Which I'm
Yeah.
sure everybody did. And so as I've listened to more of her songs, I've come to like them a lot more. I don't know all the names of them, but I'm like, oh, I know this one. I know this
Yeah.
one. But I've always had like, as a metalhead, I've always had like a secret shame that I've had I Knew You Were Trouble on my phone for a long time. And anytime I would get on the treadmill, I would start with that song as like my warm-up song.
I
And,
love this so much.
and so before I would get to like the extreme metal, right? And so I was like, I owe it to Taylor to write my story about that song. And it's about a lunchbox goblin. Okay,
Oh,
so that's
oh my God. Yes, 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 yes. Oh my God.
so so that's the story that's going to be in there. And then the cover was so much fun. I was like, obviously I'm going to do something that resembles Taylor. I can't steal her face, but we know that hair,
Yep.
and I want to try to capture this, very like I want to capture this independent spirit, but like happiness and all these bright colors. But also it's a horror anthology, so she's dead. And yeah, and she's wielding a knife with a little guitar head on the grip. Yeah, so that's what that is. And there's a big, it's like framed in a Polaroid. I mean,
Yeah,
I did all the things.
you did.
And that comes out, I think it comes out in November maybe, but it's up for pre-order now. And those two guys that run Sobolo are just great. It's Les Hernandez and Lucas Marino.
Hmm. Yeah, I love the idea behind it, and I I've heard rumblings of the people participating in it, and it's made me. I'm not a Swiftie. I'm really not. Like, I mean, I
Hmm.
know enough to like get by, but
Yeah.
I'm not deep in it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I'm still really excited for this anthology.
Well,
Um,
it was kind of meant to be because StokerCon in 2023 was in Pittsburgh where and it's the reason I wasn't in the con hotel because I didn't know Taylor Swift was coming into town and I'm habitually late at making my arrangements. And so I was like 2 miles away and it was a shit show,
I
Anna.
believe it. I believe it.
When I checked in to this hotel, there was a guy walking through the lobby double fisting Febreze because they'd had a sewage leak, man. Okay? So
Oh my
anyway, it
God.
all comes full
Full
circle.
circle.
But yeah, so Taylor Swift was in town and a bunch of people from the StokerCon went and saw Taylor and a bunch of the Swifties were like mixing and mingling with these horror people, which were all the same. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's there is a very thin film separating Swifties and horror people, which you might not expect if you're looking from the outside, but yeah.
Oh no, I can believe it very much. No, that's awesome. What else do you like? Are you working on anything? Like what? I don't know what you can talk about. I'm not trying to get you in trouble,
No, you're
but
not.
I know you're doing all of the talking scared stuff with the Dark Tower deep dive. I know we just got through the stand and all that
Hmm.
good stuff. So I know
Hmm.
that that's still going on, but as far as like writing and all that good stuff.
Well, I know you read The Stand earlier this year,
Yes, I
right?
did. I sure did.
Yeah, so that was your first time reading The Stand?
Yeah, I think I started it over Christmas, but I didn't finish it until like mid-January, early January, somewhere in there.
Then that's pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't do like anything else but
Yeah.
that for a while. Like,
Oh yeah. Well, I will tell you that this experience with Neil and Nat Cassidy on Talking Scared has been pretty incredible. It's done a few things. One, obviously, I'd never read any King before this. I know that's my great shame as a horror
yeah.
writer, except for On Writing. I'd read On Writing, and so I'm getting my education right
Yeah.
in King, which you got to have. And I'm really enjoying it because you don't read anything really like King nowadays necessarily. There are stories that are similar or are clearly calling back to it, but I mean,
Yeah, I don't
I
think
just
stuff
don't read a
breathes
lot
as
that
much
it
as his stuff does. Like
doesn't.
it doesn't
No.
have the space to, I don't
Yeah.
know.
And I don't think that a lot of people, I don't think that a lot of publishers would allow for that nowadays.
Yeah, there's that too.
Um, I mean, in Salem's Lot, there's and we're going to talk about Salem's Lot on that podcast, but like, there's got to be 35 people he's following. And
Yeah.
it's like nighttime in Salem's Lot. Here's what you're going to get. Here's what every family's doing
And you're
tonight.
very invested too. You're
Yeah,
very
you're
and it like all over the spectrum from the wholesome family to like the boyfriend beating the shit out of his girlfriend in the trailer park. Like
yes.
you were
Yes.
in it to win it the whole way across the spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're like some of these people are going to get fucked up tonight. Which is I mean, look, I love comeuppance more than I love anything. So I was here for that for Mr. Wife Beater in there.
Yeah.
Um, but it's also made me a much more efficient reader because
Yeah.
I tend to be pretty slow. I tend to read in the past before this only at night, read 20, 30 pages, fall asleep. Now I got to read during the day so I can actually get through all this stuff. So I'm doing the deep dive with those guys, and I just got my edit notes back from my editor, Angry Robot, for my book that comes out in September of 26, and that is called Worry Box. And I just got the cover too, but the cover reveal hasn't come out. I love it so much. But Worry Box is, I don't know, it's tough we haven't written the cover copy on it, but basically I keep telling people it's like when the house you love loves you back.
Oh.
And yeah,
But it's
and
called Worry Box. Oh God. Oh crap.
yeah,
What are you gonna do to me? Shit.
it's not good. It's not good. Nothing good can happen out
Christ.
of
I'm gonna
that.
start sending my
Uh,
therapy bills to you.
sorry. And then I'm going to continue doing all the art for Rapture for the chapbooks. But then we haven't announced it yet, but something else is coming from Rapture.
I
Um,
think I might
you
maybe
might.
I
You
might talk
might.
to you about this
You,
later, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
we'll talk after. Um, and just let me just say this. If you're interested in reading another long book, I might have something for you.
Okay.
Um, and then I have to write my 27 book for Angry Robot. And then I'm going out. We're gonna go out on sub soonish, I guess, on my very unapologetic womb ripping baby eating witch novel.
Ooh.
Um,
Oh, I remember you posting about this last summer.
yeah,
Yeah.
that one I've had some people look at it and help me just shape it. But that one is called Kill Me with Fire. And
Ooh.
that one, hopefully, man, cross fingers, that one is so much fun. So much fun, but it's awful. It's the worst thing you'll ever read.
I am seated and I am buckled up.
So yeah, that's kind of what I got going on.
Yeah, you're not busy at all or anything like that.
Oh my God. This is the busiest I've ever been, but honestly, the writing is a lot, but the all the cover art I'm doing now is like any spare time now. None. I have none.
Yeah, I mean I'm a little guilty of that too. I mean, I did hire you to do my logo, which I am obsessed with, and I need to formally thank you again for
I,
it because I love it so fucking
Anna,
much.
I absolutely love that logo so much. Like I've done a lot of logos and it just, you know what all it was? It was at Stoker. You had asked me after Stoker, but at Stoker, you had that hair. And
Every day.
it stuck so firmly in my mind because it was so unique and like the way it twirled. And of course, if you look at any of my album covers and stuff, if I can put hair in it, I put hair in it. I love doing shitloads of hair. I mean, even the Taylor Swift cover, she doesn't have that much hair, but I gave her a bunch more just
No,
because
no,
I like,
it was a Gemma's cover that you just did too for her special
mhm,
edition of White Pines. That one, I feel like
yes.
that one had them too.
It
Yeah.
did. And yeah, and I did V Castro's and there's a bunch
Yep.
of hair there. I just if I can do hair, I'm gonna do hair. And so you gave me the thing I really love. And it's like a skull, a hair, a fleur-de-lis. Like that's easy. That formula is easy. So I'm so glad you liked it.
Well, it's so funny because I got the stickers in that I ordered and I don't I think it was TJ. I think it was my fiance. I want to
Hmm.
say it was him. If not, it was like my dad or somebody. But I remember it was a guy and they saw it and they were like, "Well, that's your hair." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
point." Like,
it's my logo.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
supposed to kind of look like me. And they were like,
Not an
"That's incredible."
accident.
And I was like, "Yeah."
Even though I turned you into a skull, the big smile
Oh yeah.
on the sky, it's still you. It's totally still you. So, well, I'm glad you liked it and it didn't take me too long to do
Oh
that.
no.
Yeah,
I've gotten lots of compliments on it. I mean, everybody loves it. I'm a huge, huge fan of it. So,
man,
but no, I
I'm
mean,
so glad.
I'm glad that the business is good, but
Yeah,
also
yeah.
I know it's an incredibly busy time. But all of the artwork that you do for Rapture is stunning. I mean, every time that I get one in, I just like kind of stop and take a minute. And I do cheat. I will like thumb through and look at the pictures before I get a
Uh-huh.
chance to read because I just want to see what you did.
Yeah.
But no, it's great stuff, man. And I'm thrilled that you have this much coming out and that this is, the way that things are going for you. I mean, I love Shit Show and everything else that's to come, I'm sure is going to be fantastic. And I'm sure that I will bully you into talking to me again then. Um,
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And thank you so much. And it is just I don't know when did you start doing this podcast? It's not that long ago, right?
like seriously, I started it was like last summer I started.
Okay.
So I
Because
started on YouTube, but at the beginning of the year I made the switch. I was like, no, we're going to go full podcast now.
yeah, okay. Well, it's you are just such a natural part of this community. It's so awesome to have you and just to get to know you and hang out and everything.
To pass out
It's the
fireball shots at
best.
StokerCon.
Oh, well, we were at Dark Ink last
Yeah.
weekend in Doylestown,
Hmm.
and we were at a bar afterwards. And I'm talking now, Anna, you live in Louisiana. You know real bars,
Oh
like
yeah.
where you go in and like it is solidly anchored by legit drunks,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And like it's legit. And this one still was still a smoking bar and
Oh
everything.
hell yeah.
And we go in and I think it was Paul Tremblay's wife. We had been talking about Fireball, me and some other people that were there, Kat Delani and some other folks, and Tony, and Lisa Tremblay comes over with 10 shots of Fireball out of the
My hero.
like chilled
Oh,
Fireball thing.
hell yeah. They used to have those for Jägermeister at the
Yes,
bar I used to go to in
yes,
college. Yeah.
absolutely that Goldschlager, right?
Yep.
And so we all do shots. I do my shot and I'm like, and oddly enough, I make eye contact with Paul Tremblay and we put him down and we kind of look at each other. And at the same time, we both go, that was kind of good. Because you expect to suffer, but if it's nicely chilled, like
Yo, you're set.
it was kind of good. And then just the biggest like baller moment was there was an extra shot because one person didn't drink, and Lisa Tremblay just popped it. Just boom. I'll do two, no problem. I'm not a little wuss like you, Chris, because she tried to get me to do it. I was like, oh no, I'm a baby. I'm just a baby.
I mean, Paul's cool and all, but it sounds like Lisa's the real
Yeah,
winner
Lisa,
here.
man, she's so awesome. So awesome. It was my first time meeting her. I was like, I gotta hang out with this person, like
That's
at every
incredible.
opportunity.
Oh, that's so awesome. Oh, I have FOMO that I missed out on that one, but no, that sounds like an incredible time. Oh man, well, we are a little bit over the hour. I don't want to keep you too long, but thank
All
you so
good.
much for coming and talking about Shit Show. It is going to be released on September 2nd from Solo Books. You can pre-order right now. It is up on their website. They are a fantastic indie press, so I highly recommend that everybody goes and checks them out and everything else that they're doing. Um, oh, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention before we sign off? I typically
Yeah,
ask this question.
yeah. So I'm glad you asked that question. Yeah, so I was at a gas station in Oklahoma and I went inside and I went to the bathroom, but on the way in, I was like, did I just see a rack that had party buckets of Fireball? And when I came out of the bathroom, my suspicions were confirmed. And I bought a bucket, like a plastic
I
bucket
know exactly what you're talking
of
about.
Fireball, little
Yeah.
Fireball thing. So that's I'm glad you asked that question. That's just what I wanted to say at the end
The
there.
perfect closer. The
But
perfect closer.
beyond that, thank you so much for having me. I love chatting with you and talking. So thank you.
Oh no, literally anytime. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Panatier on Shit Show. That was a really lovely conversation with Chris. I'm sure you could hear my laughs and my giggles with all of our puns and the conversation that we had. Chris is one of my favorite people to talk to. He is so enthusiastic about his writing, his craft, his art, and it makes getting to chat with him just an absolute breeze of a time. I actually didn't even realize that a whole hour had passed by the time that we had gotten to where we did at the end. So yeah, I literally could talk to the guy for forever. Now, looking forward to the extra release that is this week. I am not above a little bit of being a little cheeky. It is my birthday this week. My birthday is on Wednesday, September 3rd. And the best birthday present that you could give me, one is you're already doing it. You're listening in. Thank you so much. You were the best. If you want to share the show, rate the show, do whatever it is to spread the word about the show, I would be eternally grateful. Best birthday present ever. And then more importantly, I would love for you to return for my episode on Thursday with the one and only Rachel Harrison. We talk about her recent release or upcoming release, Play Nice, which is a book that absolutely blew me away. If you've ever talked to me, you know how much I love Rachel's work. Play Nice is no exception. And I got the chance to talk to her about this book way back in like April or May whenever I first read it. And so I have been dying to get this conversation out with Rachel, but I'm trying to make it timely. I'm trying to keep it as close to pub day as possible. Play Nice does come out on September 9th, so that's why you're getting this episode early on Thursday. So again, just to recap all that's going on because this is such a busy time. You heard my conversation today with Chris Panatier on his novel Shit Show, which is out today as of September 2nd from Solo Books. Pre-order from them or just order from them at this point. They're a fantastic indie publisher. They're doing great work. Cannot recommend them enough. And then moving on to Thursday, my conversation with Rachel will be live. We talk about Play Nice, which again, you can still pre-order that novel as well. It is out on September 9th from Berkeley publishing. There are so many great books coming out on September 9th. It honestly, that's why we're doing the podcast this way, where we're having more than one episode a week, because I'm trying to keep up with all that is coming out this month. It is absolutely insane. So, thank you all so much for listening, supporting, shouting out the show. You all are the absolute best. I see you every time that you share something or, quote a post that I have. Y'all are just awesome. And I'm so thankful to be part of this community and to keep doing what I'm doing. So thank you guys. I will see you again on